You have 6 weeks to turn in all of your precious metals. Any physical gold that you own, any silver. Your government has declared that it's your national duty to turn it in. And by the way, if you don't, you may face a hefty fine, maybe even imprisonment. Is your blood boiling? Nothing lights the wick of a precious metal stacker like the idea of government confiscations, but that's exactly what happened almost 100 years ago. Can it happen again? We're going to explore that. Are things different now than they were 100 years ago? But first, let's take a look at the fascinating history of what actually did happen, see what we can learn from that, and then see if we think it's even possible to happen again right now. In 1933, the United States government made a decision that would forever change the relationship between citizens and their gold. President Franklin D. Roosevelt signed Executive Order 6102, which required all Americans to turn in their gold to the government. The order was a response to the economic crisis of the Great Depression, as the government sought to stabilize the currency and boost the economy. The country was in dire straits, with unemployment at all-time high and the economy in a state of collapse. The government believed that by collecting all the gold in the country, they could inflate the currency and stimulate economic growth. Under the order, all individuals, partnerships, associations, and corporations were required to deliver all but a small amount of gold to the Federal Reserve. Boy, we trust them, don't we? By May 1st, 1933, the penalty for noncompliance was a fine of up to $10,000, which is like $250,000 in today's dollars, or up to 10 years in prison. The order was met with resistance from some Americans who felt that their constitutional rights were being violated. They argued that the government had no right to take their property without compensation. The government argued that the measure was necessary to stabilize the economy and protect the country from the effects of the Depression. They pointed to the fact that many other countries had taken similar measures during times of economic crisis. The measure did have some positive effects on the economy. The price of gold was raised from $20.67 an ounce to $35. This helped the government to inflate the economy and stabilize the currency. As a result, the economy began to recover and the country emerged from the Great Depression. So it was a good thing that they took all your gold. One important point to remember is they paid people the $20.67, and after they had everybody's gold, then they raised the price to $35. In 1975, the government lifted the ban on private ownership of gold. That was right after they got off the gold standard, coincidentally, and Americans were once again allowed to own and trade the metal. The U.S. Treasury also began selling gold to the public, and the price of gold dropped to around $200 an ounce. That's a little higher than the $35 that it was at in 1930. The gold confiscation of 1930s is a controversial event in American history, and it remains a topic of debate among economists and historians. While some argue that it was necessary to stabilize the economy, others argue that it was an infringement on the rights of American citizens. The event serves as a reminder of the government's power to control the economy and the rights of citizens during times of crisis. I got to tell you, I appreciate you being here. I appreciate you joining me in the basement, watching my video, connecting one-on-one right now. It's just me and you. I hope you feel like you found a new little sub-family or something like that. We have some camaraderie around here. If you want to come back, please subscribe, turn on the ring-a-ling-ding-a-ling bell, leave a comment in the comment section below. You do not have to agree with me. That's how we learn, is from each other. There's one big key we need to talk about how that worked. They bought everybody's gold for $20.67. After they had it, then they revalued it to $35 because back then the dollar was backed by gold. So if they wanted to inflate, if they wanted to print a bunch of money, which is what they wanted to do, they had to revalue the gold because otherwise they can't print without having the gold on hand. But since they raised the value of gold, they could print all those extra dollars that funded all those work programs that went on all around the United States. Now, can it happen today? I think there's a couple key differences now, almost 100 years later, as compared to then. Number one, back then, from what I'm told, people trusted the government much, much more. They trusted their politicians much more. Look, I'm just stating a fact that when you look at the poll results, Americans do not trust their government or their politicians. Today, Americans are more aware. They've watched their politicians squander away a great deal of wealth. So if suddenly they said, hey, we want you to turn in all your precious metals, I don't think people would be as quick to do it as they did 100 years ago. The other big key difference is back then, gold and silver were more mainstream. They were a part of our money system, right? Everybody, many more people it was just a bigger part embedded within the American culture. Today, it's much different. We're a niche group, right? We're like, what, 0.5% of the population? Hardly anybody really stacks physical metals in this day and age. And those that do, and this is the big key difference, are doing it because they know of the challenges, I guess we'll say, that we have with our government, with the Federal Reserve. I mean, could you imagine the federal, we have to take, if you do own, some physical metal, having to take that and give it to the Federal Reserve? I just can't see the average silver or gold stacker being real agreeable to that scenario playing out. Doesn't it feel like we're living in very interesting times? It's going to be fascinating in the coming months, quarters, and years how everything plays out. One thing for sure, we can get through it together. I hope you decide to come back to Ron's Basement. Yes, you know you're always welcome here. I'll see you next time.